Merry Christmas, a blessed and peaceful, safe and healthy final week of the year 2020 from Metro Manila, the Philippines, Southeastern Asia. In this informal Bible study, I'm going to outline several reasons why I firmly believe that no COVID-19 vaccine fits the description or descriptions of the biblical mark of the beast. Why do I do this? Because in my surfing of the mass media, including Christian mass media, including one really thoughtfully and carefully and anti-extremistly prepared piece of writing by Mr. Leevi Launonen, who is a Finnish retired Pentecostal teacher, principal, singer, journalist, and writer, and who still has these radio columns on Finland's most widely listened to Christian radio station, Radio Day. That one Nigerian pastor had claimed that supposedly the COVID-19 vaccine, or one or more of them, would constitute the mark of the beast. And then two Finnish charismatic or hyper-charismatic pastors had also claimed, using different variations of the theme, that either the COVID-19 vaccine would be the mark of the beast, or it supposedly would have been the virus would have been developed by the American computer billionaire and philanthropist Bill Gates and his wife Melinda. The same claim had been made a few days earlier in the last week of March 2020 by a controversial South African-born American hyper-charismatic or neo-charismatic pastor, Rodney Howard-Browne, who was one of the leading figures of the so-called Toronto Blessing in the 1990s. And he was even briefly arrested after having made that totally bizarre and unsubstantiated claim. Well, we have to remember what the mark of the beast is. The mark of the beast will be designed by the Antichrist. We don't know the Antichrist's human identity, but in all likelihood, the Antichrist is already alive somewhere on this planet. When I look at the world's events, they so much resemble the end-time prophecies of the Bible that I consider it very likely that the Antichrist is already alive, whether as a child, as a teenager, or as a young adult. So the Antichrist and his main assistant, the false prophet, who together with Satan or the devil form the unholy satanic trinity that tries to imitate and desecrate the true Holy Trinity, Father, Son, and the Holy Spirit. And this mark of the beast is not designed to cure people from sicknesses, but it's designed to be a walking combination of all kinds of electronic cards. So without the mark of the beast, no one will be allowed to buy or sell, while there's absolutely not a single iota of evidence that any of the COVID-19 vaccines, which are now gradually being applied to people, mostly in the Western countries, or in some Western countries, not even all Western countries yet, or the most, and that will become commercially available during the soon starting year 2021. First of all, vaccination is voluntary, which is wonderful. Secondly, even if people don't get vaccinated, they will not lose their ability to buy or sell. And they definitely do not have to renounce their Christian or any other religious beliefs, nor do they have to worship the devil in order to get the vaccine. So those people who, like the American born-again rap star Kanye West, allegedly or reportedly have said that they will not take the vaccine because they fear or believe that it is the mark of the beast, they are sincerely wrong. And I'll try to prove it. Of course, the mark of the beast has been associated with various kinds of issues and practices and technological innovations, including the microchip in the 1990s, especially the second half of the year. I can still remember one day in or around 1997 when a pious but probably not very well informed Christian lady handed me a piece of paper that warned me of the dangers of the microchip. And then, was it in the 1970s or 1980s, an American, or at the latest in the early 1990s, I think, according to Grant R. Jeffries, no, not Grant R. Jeffries, but the late Timothy LaHaye, who was a Baptist pastor and a passionate researcher and writer of the end times, and he even produced the 12-volume series Left Behind, starting from the rapture, the sudden removal from earth to heaven of the true Christians, and ending with the millennial kingdom. Well, anyway, Timothy LaHaye was of the opinion, or cited as an example of a sincere but misguided Christian, an American army officer who lost his position in the army because he refused to take the identification code because he feared that it would be the mark of the beast, and also the barcode and so forth. Now, I do not claim that these codes could not be preliminary stages on the way that leads to the mark of the beast. And then also when the Affordable Care Act was passed by the US Congress in 2010, also called Obamacare because it was strongly advocated by then US President Barack Obama, included the voluntary, note voluntary insertion, usually I think here or here, either here or here, of a microchip that would then enable the medical doctors and paramedics and nurses to access the medical records of people who had lost their consciousness or who were, because of severe injuries or strokes or some similar medical conditions, unable to speak, unable to identify themselves. Yet, none of those qualifies as the mark of the beast. And we have to remember that the true Church of Jesus Christ is still here on the earth. Now, I know that there are many millions of fine Christians who believe that the true Christians, or at least most of them, will have to go through the Great Tribulation. Well, if that is the case, may God give us that much more power and endurance. But I see no evidence that any of the COVID vaccines would be the mark of the beast. They are designed to help somehow contain this pandemic and to ensure, with a high degree of probability, that people who then otherwise live healthily, for example, eat right, exercise, regularly wash their hands, avoid social kissing and hugging and other intimate forms of touching, even handshaking, until the pandemic is declared to be over. There is not a single iota of evidence that it would be used for devil worship, at least by its basic intentions. And we have to remember that the mark of the beast, once it finally, probably sometime in the near future or not too distant future, of course we don't know, only God knows, probably sometime in the near future, once it comes into operation, it will become sooner or later mandatory. While I don't honestly believe that the COVID-19 vaccine, unless the pandemic gets totally out of control all around the world, will become mandatory. That there will be recommendations to take it, but no obligation. But, however, the mark of the beast will not be optional. That probably all those people who refuse to take it will then either be executed or will eventually starve to death, unless they are, by some special grace of God, able to hide themselves. So let's read what the Bible says about the true mark of the beast. And because of the context, I will read quite many verses here. From verse 4 to verse 18 of Revelations chapter 13, according to the New King James Version. So they, meaning the unsaved people of the world at the time, worshipped the dragon, meaning Satan, who gave authority to the beast, the Antichrist. And they worshipped the beast, saying, who is like the beast? Who is able to make war with him? So the true mark of the beast will be connected with open Satan worship. Of course, disguised as the worship of this great, allegedly great leader who supposedly has brought peace or wants to bring peace to the earth and wants to unite all people across all kinds of lines imaginable, ethno-racial, religious, cultural, linguistic, gender, sexual orientation, and so forth. And he was given a mouth speaking great things and blasphemies, and he was given authority to continue for 42 months. Then he opened his mouth in blasphemy against God, to blaspheme and mock his name, his tabernacle, and those who dwell in heaven. It was granted to him to make war with the saints and to overcome them. And those who hold on to the pre-tribulationist view of the rapture would then consider these saints as the people who were left behind, people who had been Christians but had backslidden, were not watchful, had secret sins in their lives, and so forth. Or people who had just been nominally Christians but had then, after the rapture, sooner or later come to their senses and had repented and given their lives to Jesus. And authority was given him over every tribe, tongue, and nation. All who dwell on the earth will worship him, whose names have not been written in the book of life of the Lamb slain from the foundation of the world. So I can't imagine that any current world leader, including the outgoing US President Donald Trump, would try to force the people of all tribes, tongues, and or meaning languages and nations to worship him or her. If anyone has an ear, let him hear. He who leads into captivity shall go into captivity. He who kills with the sword must be killed with the sword. Here is the patience or perseverance and the faith of the saints. Then I saw another beast coming up out of the earth, and he had two horns like a lamb and spoke like a dragon. This is the false prophet who will lead the Antichrist's so-called world church, or whatever name it will then be given. It will be an extremely ecumenical church. It basically says that as long as you believe in God or some kind of higher power, as long as you believe in the love of God, you're welcome. But you must never, never claim that only Jesus can save you from sins. And he exercises all the authority of the first beast in his presence, and causes the earth and those who dwell in it to worship the first beast, whose deadly wound was healed. He performs great signs, so that he even makes fire come down from heaven on the earth in the sight of men. And he deceives those who dwell on the earth by those signs which he was granted to do in the sight of the beast, telling those who dwell on the earth to make an image to the beast, who was wounded by the sword and lived. He was granted power to give breath to the image of the beast, that the image of the beast should both speak and cause as many as would not worship the image of the beast to be killed. So most likely this will mean that through some supernatural means, the Antichrist and the false prophet are going to design this image, who or that so closely resembles the Antichrist that if the people didn't know this to be just an image, a machine, a robot of some kind, and then they would really believe this to be the Antichrist. And then that image will be seen on the television sets, desktops, laptops, tablets, mini tablets, and of course on the smartphones and on the cell phones, and will then mandate the worship of the Antichrist and therefore of the devil. Nothing like that has been connected provenly to the receiving of any vaccine. There's no religious ritual involved. It's purely a medical act designed to save lives. He causes all, both small and great, rich and poor, free and slave, to receive a mark on their right hand or on their foreheads. And that already shows that it can't be the COVID-19 vaccine. It's not a mark, it's an injection, or actually 2 injections. The first one and then the second one followed 3 weeks later. And that no one may buy or sell except one who has the mark, or the name of the beast, or the number of his name. There's no evidence that any of the human governments currently existing would force the people on the pain of losing their ability to buy and sell to receive the vaccine. Here is wisdom, let him who has understanding calculate the number of the beast, for it is the number of a man, his number is 666. So however that is composed, whether it is of the Greek letters, Hebrew letters, Latin letters, or a combination, I do not yet know. And neither does any other human being living on the earth. So the mark of the beast is coming, but no COVID-19 vaccine is this mark. And then there are these outlandish ideas of the mark of the beast being, for example, Halloween Sunday as the Christian Sabbath or day of rest. And then those who hold this view are extreme holders of the view that only the Jewish calendar Sabbath from sunset on Friday evening to sunset on Saturday evening will be the true Christian day of rest. And there have been throughout centuries many potential candidates for the Antichrist, including Emperor Nero, Napoleon, Hitler, and so forth. But none of them have fit the descriptions, because the Antichrist hasn't yet openly taken power, although he probably very likely is alive now. So hopefully this brief video will comfort those who wonder if it is spiritually unsafe for them to receive the COVID-19 vaccine. Of course, I do counsel caution that you should carefully and prayerfully and comparatively prepare for that action. And there are alternatives to receiving the COVID-19 vaccine. For example, eating a healthy and balanced diet, getting enough rest and sleep, getting enough fresh air in terms of exercise, exercising regularly, stretching, always washing one's hands when necessary, and avoiding social touching and keeping one's distance social, so that the receiving of the COVID-19 vaccine is not a cure-all during this pandemic, nor should it be made mandatory anywhere on this planet. May God bless and keep all of you. Merry Christmas.